All right. So, real estate market 2024. You're gonna get your house listed. You put it out on the market, and oh my God, my house isn't selling. Right. So, what do we do? What's potentially wrong? Let's go through it. Today, I'm joined with Natalia Paulino, the great and wonderful real estate mom. Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
You've been quite busy with a lot of content creation, and how's that schedule treating you?
it's great. It's fun. Keeps me like moving and energy flowing. And I've been able to meet some really awesome people, owners of local businesses, which is really nice. And also getting to know like a lot more like their back history and also loving that they're really focused on building community, which is really important.
And look, and it comes with the business, but in this particular case, like as opposed to where other people will talk about it, you proof is in the pudding. You put in the work in, and you're also documenting. So, hats off to you. I know it's not easy with a busy realtor schedule, right?
Yeah.
But let's get right into it, right? So as many people know, and if you don't know, what we're telling you, April is typically the best time if you're a seller to list out your house, right? At least at the very bare minimum in our markets. So if you're thinking about selling and things the stars are aligning, right now it might be the time for you to reach out to an agent. Obviously, myself and Natalia are always at your beck and call. But we do see houses, right? And typically, what we like to look at is average days on market, right? That'll give you a determination of, on average, the houses in your area, how fast are they selling? And now, let's just pick arbitrary numbers for now. Let's say on average, houses in that neighborhood sell for 60 days. But now your house has been out for 90, 120, 100, maybe even longer. What are the things that you, as a realtor, right, that you want to look at just to assess what's going on there?
Yeah, so there's always going to be a list of areas we can look into to determine what was the actual issue and why the home didn't sell. And first, it's like pulling up the old listings if it's been listed more than once and just reviewing how it was presented previously with whatever listing agent there was. Automatically, it's usually marketing. It's like the photographs, how it was presented, or a description. And also pricing are a lot of those main things that stick out top of mind because I mean, we could start from the top, right? Like, let's go with the pricing. There's sellers out there that want a specific price on their home, even after showing them comparables of what has actually sold, something similar to their home, what it sold for, and they still want to list higher than that. They want whatever price they think it is because they probably did some renovations, modifications, maybe they added a pool or they added these certain features that were for themselves, right? To suit their personality and their needs. And they expect to have a return on that where not everything you do for your home is meant for other people. So
Mm-hmm.
they might not be able to see that return. And sometimes it's hard for people to understand that because it's their prized possession and they love their home.
Mm-hmm. And it brings up an interesting point, right? Because I mean, oftentimes when I talk to sellers and homeowners, like, well, you could push a couple of ways, but if you were to say, look, how much do you think your house is worth, or how much are you looking to sell your house for, right?
Right.
And they might put out whatever number. And again, just for the sake of simplicity here, they're like, look, I think well, John down the street sold it for 1.1, but I think I should be able to pull in 1 million. All right, that's fine, cool.
Yeah.
So and this is situational, right? Depending on how the area is performing, there's a lot of variables. However, in some cases, it may be that the game plan is to work up to that $1 million sales price, right? So what I mean by that, maybe depending on situation again, maybe it makes more sense for us to list it at 950 to get more feet through the door. And now you might be in a situation where now you might have a bidding war and you might actually get more than that million that you were expecting, right? But
Yeah.
sometimes it's psychology, because sometimes if they're like, well, we want it for 1.3, right? I want 1.3, 1.5, I'm like, look, and let's just assume that it's not completely outrageous, right? Because if the outrageous prices, people, they have Google, right? They're gonna look, why is everything on this block $1 million and this fool is charging 1.5? They're not even gonna want
Right.
to look at it, right? But assuming that you're within the realm of reality, right? it might be easier to if they're on the fence, but if the lower priced ones will have a higher likelihood of people saying, let's at least go take a look. Let's go take a look. And then once you show up on the property, like, I actually like the finish. I like the floors. The room setups are actually pretty decent. And now they're like, look, are there offers? Yeah, there are offers. So what do you want to do? Right? What are your thoughts on
I
that?
think I think people have to think outside of just selling the home. And like when they go out and buy something, anything, like they're most likely not going to go overpay for something, right? If they see two things, let's just say even two TVs, and they have the same features, but one's listed high and one's listed low, you're automatically going to go for the one that's a lower price, but you get the
Mhm.
same features. And I think it's really hard sometimes with some sellers for them to understand or think that way. It's like
Mhm.
nobody goes out and pays more for anything they feel that it's worth, especially if there's other options for a lesser price.
Absolutely. Right. And, especially with the run up of real estate prices, right? And I like to steer away from it's overpriced and things like that. I know that's the vernacular these days, but
Mhm.
it's affordability, quite simply, right? And so the other side of it is, generally speaking, right? Your standard home buyer, right? A lot of times these days, right, and they don't want a house that requires a lot of work.
Right.
So the pricing is also closer to a turnkey, right? Which means you could literally just kind of move in, maybe with a little spruce up here and there. And I also see cases where the house is dated, or the house actually legitimately needs a lot of work, and
Right.
then you're going to try to get close to market price. It doesn't. Outside of some kind of really weird quirk with it, more times than not,
Mhm.
they're not going to want to do it. Why? Because a good home buyer or a home buyer with a proper agent will say, hey, look, let's walk through it with the contractor. Let's get something roughly priced out, right? And then we'll figure out if that build cost makes sense with the addition of the sales price of the house. Now, if the house needs $200,000 of work and the market price of the house is $1 million, for you to charge $900,000 or even $1 million, that doesn't make so much sense, right? Because they have to put time now and additional funds to fix the house
Yeah.
off the market, not even like to make a Taj Mahal. These are considerations to have, and this is why I think it makes sense for you to speak with a realtor, right? Look, if you want to do it yourself, you can do it, but I would say, generally speaking, we still have more accurate and more robust data for you to look at. What are your thoughts there?
That's a good point. I would also say it's a lot about going into a buyer's mindset, like their psychology when they're going out and they're looking, and also taking into account to you yourself when you go out and buy stuff, how you budget it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're not going to go out and go to the top of your budget immediately. So the way we price it is let's price it slightly below value. We get those people in that are looking already slightly below, their budget, but they have room to negotiate up when they find the home that they really like. And we get more eyes on the price of the home, right? Because we're priced correctly. And then we have all these buyers coming in that still have that room to, go a little bit more because they didn't go in right at the top of their budget.
Yep. 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 And so, obviously, there's there are paths either which way, but either which way, there's an adjustment that needs to be made, right?
Right. And then, yeah. So I would feel like pricing typically comes up first when I see something that hasn't sold. I'm like, what does the price look like? And does it
Mhm.
make sense compared to comps? And
Yep.
then let's just say the price does make sense. Then we go into like, how is it presented? How is it marketed? And then we can go into the first thing that you see is the photography, the photos.
Mhm.
And a lot of the times, if it's something that has terrible photography, they didn't use a professional, you can tell that either the homeowner or the agent took them themselves.
Mhm.
The lighting is horrible. There's no staging done. And staging doesn't have to be full out, take all their furniture out and refurnish it to stage it. It could be just decluttering and removing items and making everything look fresh and clean for the photography. That's another thing that people don't think about. And probably even worse because we do have good phones, right? The
Mhm.
cameras in our phones now are getting better and better, but it's also the staging part, the angles, the lighting, all of that is going to present the home in a different light, different perspective. And it goes to show, like, unless, I don't know, unless it's a home that is, they already know the next buyer is going to have to renovate it,
Hmm.
then I guess that doesn't really matter as much, right? Because it's going to be like a gut renovation. The
Right.
photography, like that, it's more like they have to see it in person anyways, but always
Right.
want to do professional photography.
But even at that, I mean, it gives them a better assessment, right? Like it's still, you still have to price accordingly, but you still want to represent it like correctly, right? And
Right.
I guess one of the other things that I find interesting is I think I notice it more as a realtor. Of as I looked at these photos, you start to develop like this gut sixth sense, like this gut feeling, sixth sense type thing of like if it's over Photoshop, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's still that's you just touched on one of my pet peeves. I can understand. Look, if it's a very low listing and there's no margin, right? Because it's still a business. We're still a business, right? So if it turns
Well,
out
there's
that,
still a way to handle it, right?
of
Because I
course,
did have a listing, a co-op, a 2 bedroom that was going to need full renovation.
hmm hmm
And I still went in with my phone and took those photographs and
hmm
then got them photoshopped. So
hmm
it's nice and clean. And then you have
right,
to disclose that, right? So you kind of stamp that on that's been virtually
Photoshop,
staged. And then
hmm
on top of that, inside the listing description, just let them know this is the possibilities,
hmm
not what it looks like, but at least people can see like the space and what
hmm
it could look like,
yep,
even if even if it's a mock, I guess.
of course. No, like what I was referring to is like because so me, I'm looking for another house, and you see some of these photos, it looks pristine, looks amazing. I walk in, I'm like the floors are rotted out, like the walls are dingy with stains. I'm like, wait, what? Something's doesn't not
Yeah.
adding up here. But what also drove me crazy is you have these like $1 million plus listings, and they're taking photos by themselves, right? And it's not even good quality. It's not like the way they took the photos is terrible. The way like the quality
Right.
of them is not great. And I'm like, okay, I can understand if like you're at the end of all said and done, like let's say there's like almost no commission. There's like a budget type deal. Okay, maybe fine, right? But if you are making a proper commission, hire a professional or do it professionally, right? Stop,
Right.
like realtors, please. This is why we're getting ourselves into trouble. Stop taking garbage photos, right? Especially when you're in a situation where you have a budget for it, right? Again,
Yeah.
if the way you worked out the deal with the seller is such that you're losing money and you have a like upfront conversation, maybe that's a different thing, right? I'm not that's but
I
generally
think it's just
speaking,
it's having like a level of like your standards and your
yeah,
values.
yep, yep, yep,
And I mean, at the end of the day, in our market, it's almost impossible to say that you can't budget it into your cost
yep,
because we all know like the marketing cost isn't very, it's not crazy unless you're doing like some major, higher end luxury property where you're doing a little bit more expensive
hmm
end marketing, but relatively it's not that bad. And if you can't afford that type of marketing at that price point, then maybe you shouldn't take it, or you need to partner up with somebody that can.
yep. I agree, 1,000% agree.
Because
Um,
you could have a newer agent that maybe not might not have that budget and funds in their pocket because we do have to pay for those marketing expenses up front, right? We don't get
mhm,
paid at the closing table for that, but there's always that option where you team up with somebody that can help you.
mhm. And I'll say that's like I guess for those who don't know, uh, look, I mean, Natalia's gonna be my go-to business partner in terms of real estate and all that stuff, all that jazz. And on first, they're like, "Well, you could just knuckle down and do it yourself, right?" I'm like, "I could, but I'll give up, because one of the arguments is, well, you're giving up money. Well, okay, well, fine, but the way I see it is the quality of the person I'm partnering up with is top notch. So I'll be happy to give up funds because there's more seats at the table and there's more food to be had, right? And
Right,
so for the agents who are sitting there who like absolutely feel like they need to do it all on their own, all right, good luck, right? But
right.
from the way I see it is, if you could leverage. If it's going to cost you money, then make sure it's valuable, right? And so that's
Yeah,
just my 2 cents.
especially if you don't have that money. If you're a new agent, you can't do it, but you decided to take it on anyways, and you're going to do a crappy job taking crappy photos because you think when it sells, you'll take home the whole commission, and then
You're
it
hurting
doesn't
yourself.
sell. So, I mean, it really didn't do you any good. You're walking away with nothing at the end of the day
Hmm.
versus going in with somebody that can help you out and then, split a portion of the commission. But like
Hmm.
anything's better than zero.
Yeah, and I feel like that it does break into like your business acumen, right? But that's a separate conversation, right? Um, how do you
What
feel in
else?
terms? How do you like? How do you feel in terms of look? Let's say you walk in and there's a listing that failed with another agent. Let's say it was on the market for 6 months. It's not like the structurally it's sound, but and slightly overpriced. Like let's say 5% overpriced in your opinion, right? Based on comps. Um, and the house could use some love, right? Nothing crazy, but how like maybe the yard's a little disheveled. Maybe the fence could use a paint job, stuff like that. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's another thing is having those conversations with the seller ahead of time before listing and say, look, if you make these low cost, you know, um, fixes, it's going to sell faster and for more.
Hmm.
And that includes fresh paint, whether it be interior or, like you said, a fence or exterior, or just changing out even all the light bulbs so it brightens up the space, changing out some of the hardware, whether it be like doorknobs or outlet covers. Little things like that actually go a long way
Hmm.
and they don't cost a lot of money. It's not like you're doing a full renovation. I believe even like in the kitchen, you wouldn't have to do a full renovation if the material can easily be just painted over. Not the case for everyone, but it would be like case by case is finding out what little cosmetic things they can do that are also not expensive,
Hmm.
but do have a great higher ROI because it just makes the place look better and fresher, newer, looks like it's been maintained versus a lot of the homes here, they're so old, you know, like just little things go a long way.
And that's the irony, right? It's the lipstick who sometimes gives you much better ROI or return on your investment than like renovations, right?
Right.
So please keep that in mind. But again, this is this is why I would have conversations with a realtor, right? But is there anything else that I'm forgetting? I know there's a lot to discuss, but is there anything else like top of mind right now?
Yeah, because if we're talking about the marketing, right? So we covered the photography, price, description. So
Hmm.
the description on the property is important as well. I've seen descriptions that are one sentence. This is a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. I'm like,
That's.
okay, like they can easily see that at the
Hmm.
top of the whatever site you're on because that's immediately first. But what else is there, right?
Hmm.
Like, is it functional? Like, is it like a railroad layout? For those people, like sometimes that really matters. They want it or they don't want it.
Hmm.
Um, Going more in depth about the home kind of saves time for everyone because we're not showing people that really don't want a specific thing in a home. We're not cutting into people's schedules, whether it's the seller or tenants, to make showing times available for people that could have known a little bit more about the home in the description.
Hmm. And I absolutely agree. And obviously, the standard issue is there are also a lot of realtors that write this whole like love note, and it works for some.
Yeah,
But essentially, obviously, the way most people will approach this is you look for a house, then you have your, if you're looking at Zillow, Redfin, and all that jazz, like Natalia said, you have the bed, bath, square footage, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But but once I look through that, I might look through the pictures, right? And so for me,
yeah,
part of my thought process is there anything in that description that will kind of better explain the photos that they're going to look through, right? What is the
right.
significance of how this relates? E- Everyone has their own style, but again, yeah, you nailed it right on the head. When they're just like, this is a single family house, 2 bed, two
Yeah,
bath. I'm like, okay, I or okay, like so, and well, I mean, the other side would be, this is a great investment, and I run the numbers, it's like negative a
that
hundred
makes
percent,
sense.
right? And I'm like, investment how, right? But this is where a good realtor and I mean, actually, that is one thing that someone brought up. Like one way they found a realtor was actually they would look through listings and see the description and see how they describe properties. And I was like,
Right.
really? That's a thing? They're like, well, I mean, because every realtor is a top agent. Everyone has a great thing. That everyone works hard. Da, 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 da. Like, well, okay, let me see how you put out your listings. Okay, that's actually right. So hot tip for for those who are
I
looking
mean,
to.
that's what I feel like every seller should be asking more about, how people market homes.
Mhm,
Because I feel like if they were to see other listings, there probably wouldn't be a lot of people that they've been hiring.
mhm, mhm,
I've met sellers, even expireds, their home didn't sell, and they have no idea what it looked like online. And I show them, and they're like, "Oh, I've never looked." I'm like, "How do you? Your agent didn't show you what it looked
mhm,
like. You never asked to see what it looked like." And it makes sense because they don't do this. This isn't their profession, so they
mhm.
don't know what they don't know, and they don't know what to ask.
Yep. And that's, I mean, if I'm being honest, I think that's one of our secret sauces too, right? I forgot when. It might have been months ago. No, I'm pretty sure it was like 6 months ago, maybe, where
Right.
they, at the office, ran an analysis of our exposure based off the content that we produce and the marketing that we produce, and compared it to our competitors. It was orders of magnitude. That is why
Hmm.
our brokerage outperformed everyone in the borough of Queens, right? Like
Yeah.
bar none. But it's because at the end of the day, real estate is a numbers game, right? So the more eyes that see it, the more feet that come through the door, the higher likelihood of you getting the things that you want, right? It's just
Hmm.
probability. But if your agent is not properly putting that best foot forward to maximize the number of people who are going to see this listing, you're putting yourself in harm's way, which is also why, for a lot of reasons, there are a lot of jurisdictions that do not allow pocket listings or off market listings, right? From an agent perspective, numbers matter, right? It does help the seller more times than not, right?
Yeah. You want an agent that's going to be innovative, that's up to date, if not ahead of what's going on, right? Because if you think about it now, social media has blown up to the point where people actually go on looking at homes through social media. They buy through social media now too.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I don't even know, I haven't looked at the percentage of agents that are actually actively using social media as an extension to their marketing, because that's becoming a lot more popular too, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, or TikTok. Like, people are on there.
Mm-hmm.
People are finding future homes through those channels too.
And that's, I think that's going to continue to expand. So,
Right.
um,
I feel like that's becoming more of the norm, where people go for news, where people go to search for homes,
yep,
where people go to get entertained. It's on one platform.
yep. And I think that, it's just going to add to the agents that don't cut the cheese or don't make the cut, and that are going to quit, before they really hit the stride, because the bar gets raised higher by those who actually like operate in the real world, right? But this is why I think you're going to be crushing a lot of competition, last year,
Right.
this year, and years going forward. Right?
Hmm.
So for those who want to reach out, Natalia, we want to remind folks where to find you.
Yeah, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on TikTok now, finally. But also can be phone call away or text away, 347-941-4246.
Perfect. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.